Okay, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast. We are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X, as we are every single time once a series wraps up. This time, we're here to recap the Mets versus Marlins series, as well as every single thing that's been going on, the news, the rumors, everything going on in Mets land. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for this very podcast that is now recorded every Sundays and Thursdays regularly following every series of games. For those of you watching on playback and you want to join the conversation, make sure to turn those post notifications on to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, I want to let you guys know to everybody that is putting their comments and all of their thoughts off the top of their head. Just letting you know, if you think you're being ignored, we love reading the comments, but you're not being ignored. You're just being starred throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. So if you have a comment that you made maybe 20 minutes ago and it pops up 40 minutes later, you'll understand. But other than that, also make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. That mainly features this guy to my right on the screen, that being Frank's instant reactions after every Mets game, which is titled The Mets Frankly Postgame. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of the new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day that these are recorded. So let's get into episode number 75 without further ado. And you guys may notice we have somebody returning who has not been here for a while. But Rode, it's good to have you back. We had to prove that you are not dead, you're not in jail. And you know, some people were asking about you in the comments, so I decided that, you know, I was like, you know what, come back on here whenever you feel like it. But you know, how have you been? A lot has happened in Mets land. So what's going on?
Yeah, I've been great. The team's a lot better than when I was last year. A lot has happened, and I can't wait to talk about it today. I am alive. I'm excited, and let's go Mets.
All right. Now, Frank, you're usually here every single time. You know, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, nothing. Just another heartbreaking loss to the Marlins, something that we've only had to deal with for almost 2 decades. So, I mean, it's just, it's frustrating. Like, you had the series right there, a million opportunities to win. They don't. A lot of the same issues that we've talked about that have kind of popped up in the past, they definitely reared their ugly heads today, and that's kind of what happens. You end up losing a ball game that was very, very winnable against a team that is just so brutal. Like, they just keep losing to the Marlins way too much. It's been a problem all year, and it's kind of separated them from actually being around the wild card race. Like, if they all year hadn't lost so many just ridiculous games to the Marlins specifically, they'd be in such better shape right now.
Yeah. It always seems like the Marlins are the team that gives us fits no matter what. And I feel like that's continued to be the tradition no matter how good the team is or how bad the team is. And the problem with this is the fact that the Mets have kind of put themselves in this position where now they're playing these competitive teams coming up. And it probably will put you in the process if these things don't go well, if they lose a series, let's say to Baltimore, they lose a series to San Diego or Arizona's coming up, it's going to put you in that thought process of, man, I wish we won that game against the Angels. Man, I wish that we got that one game against Colorado. I wish we got that one game against Oakland. And it stinks to have to look back like that. But when you have those types of games just bunched up like they are, where it's relatively an easy month or a harder month, but you know, we've seen the Mets play down to competition as well, so maybe they play to the task against a team like Arizona or a team like San Diego. We'll see what happens, but there is a lot of things that do need to be cleaned up. And let's just say that I really hope that there are things that just get cleaned up really quickly, because there are some concerns, I would say, especially in this bullpen. And we've already talked about our frustrations with that, but I'd say that the pitching was relatively strong in this series. So I wouldn't go after who we usually would go after for the pitching, as to where this continues to be a trend where they're not maximizing talent, they're minimizing talent. Guys are doing the bare minimum just to survive, and they seem to just be worse sometimes. But with the starting pitching, that was basically the main star of this series against the Marlins, and it really should be, obviously, because it's a Marlins team you can beat. This is one of the worst offenses in all of baseball, but it did go noticed, mainly because I believe 22 of the 27 innings they played were all by the starting pitching, which is something we have not seen consistently this year. We have not seen them go distance, and even though it is the Marlins, it still goes noticed now after that series they had against the A's. So let's run down this series real quick. We'll give our main takeaways. And this one started off pretty good. Sean Manaea was good, 3 earned runs, but also giving the Mets length in 7 innings. You had runs batted in from both JDM and Lindor. Jeff McNeil continues his second half power surge later on. More on that later. Brandon Nimmo with a huge slump-busting 3-run homer to help the Mets snap the 4-game losing streak and take Game 1 of the series. Pretty easy. Game 2, more on Luis Severino's outing in a second. A complete game shutout. The Mets' first since Jacob deGrom in 2021. You had back-to-back homers in back-to-back innings from Lindor and Alonso. Winker and Vientos both plated runs as well, and it secured the series victory. The final game of this series, you had Paul Blackburn on this mound for the Mets. 6 innings, a 1-run ball, 4 strikeouts, pretty straightforward. Lindor tied the game with an RBI single. Nimmo homered once again to give the Mets the lead, but the bullpen gave it back, with Brazoban only getting 2 outs. Reed Garrett losing the strike zone and pretty much just coming back to bite him. The Mets threatened in the 9th, but they could not get the job done, and they dropped the series finale, pretty much putting them back in the same position that they were before this series began, 2 games out of the wild card, and now at 64 and 60. Frank, I'll go right to you. Your main takeaways from this series. Lots of good, but still some concern.
Yeah, I definitely think this last game, there were quite a few things that stood out. Number one, the play that went to straightaway center field where Tyrone Taylor dove and missed it, and the ball rose to the wall. And then Anthony Recker said on the broadcast, he goes, the first pitch, they threw a fastball up, which makes it so easy for a hitter in a situation where there's a runner at third base and less than 2 outs to hit a fly ball to get the sacrifice fly. And he gets that sacrifice fly on the first pitch. So not the greatest game planning by the Mets there to throw that. And then, going further, I don't even remember the last time I saw a player attempt to score from second base on a sacrifice fly. That's something that just never happens. Yeah. And the fact that it was a guy who doesn't have great speed, I also can't believe. I really can't believe that happened. I know the pitcher that the Mets were faced today had a scoreless inning streak going leading into this start. But overall, to see that happen, I just thought was pretty alarming, especially with 2 outs. So, it made 2 outs after the player caught it. But still, I just thought that was an interesting decision. And then obviously a couple more big ones. The McNeil bunt. I didn't like that. He looked really uncomfortable. Some bad attempts. Just didn't really look like he knew what he was doing. And that's just because hitters don't do that nowadays. The bunts is just not really a thing. They don't do it with pitchers here anymore, so I feel like he's been swinging a pretty good bat. You had nobody on, let him swing. I feel like that was probably the better choice. And then, again, seeing a player struggle against their former team. This time, Brazoban against the Marlins. Last time we saw Blackburn against the Athletics. I just feel like there has to be maybe somebody else you could use, like Ryan Stanek. I mean, why did we bring him in if he's not going to pitch? Been a while since we've seen him, so I feel like you got to try...
No. Not Stanek. Not Stanek. Please, no.
With the way Brazoban pitched, you can't advocate for him. He was not very good throwing wild pitches, so that was very frustrating to see. So I just think overall it wasn't the greatest managed game either. So, seeing Reed Garrett come and walk the ballpark, like, I don't know. I feel like we thought that they improved this bullpen, but this was just an all around really ugly performance from the pen today.
Yeah, definitely. And we already know that it's more of a, let's say, I don't know how to really put it because it's the Marlins, but you're going to be in these close types of games if you're going to be in the postseason. And when you have like these games that are decided by inches, games that are decided by one hit, games that are decided by one walk, those are the types of things in middle relief that come back to bite you. And this is one point that was just said in the chat by Rosie K, saying that Garrett can't pitch in the eighth inning in close games. I don't think he's cut out for that. And I think that, Garrett is an explosive arm. He can get strikeouts at will, but he can be very wild. And it seems like we've kind of put him past the capacity now, even though he's coming back healthy and they gave him a huge workload. But
Well, here's the thing too with Garrett. They warmed him up yesterday, didn't bring him in. So he's already like a little not fully fresh. And then they also had him do a high leverage outing coming in for Brosman in the 7th and then continue to pitch the 8th. Like the whole purpose of, maybe if we don't overwork him, he might be effective. Doing things like that is not good workload for a pitcher. So again, I feel like they've added other guys here, and these other guys just have to step up. I just feel like Stanek was supposed to be a big acquisition, and you're gonna just totally break Reed Garrett again so that you are avoiding Stanek.
Yeah,
like,
everybody
not that Stanek
rested.
would have done better, but it's just like the whole thing is you also pushed Severino to go 9 on the day before so that you have bullpen arms available. You pushed Manaea 7 and Budo went 2. So it's like you should have a good amount of arms available to your disposal. But it's like we talk about. If you don't trust Danny Young and you don't trust Ottavino, and now in this case you don't trust Stanek, then what's the point? It's like if you don't trust any of your arms, then this is going to happen. You're just going to break the ones that are decent. And now, once Nunez comes back, you could kind of say that he's going to be under some crazy workload because he's been one of the only guys that's been reliable. So I just feel like someone else has to step up. It's tough to win like this, having everyone do up downs. You made Maton have to do an up down as well. So I think it's tough. Like I understand the games are close. You don't want to take any chances. You need every game. But when you just have so many guys being non-factors to the point where you're basically playing with a short bullpen, but you don't necessarily have to, that's hard in the long run. You're going into a series in Baltimore and then flying to San Diego, no off day. So it's tough to manage all those arms. And then to go one step further, what happened in Oakland with Quintana not going deep into the game, you had to use so many arms. It's just like that kind of stuff just kind of piles on and makes things tougher down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that.
If I
Rod,
may,
I'll clue you in there. I'll clue you in there with the bullpen, obviously. When you say like not trusting Stanek or something, I think that like just the overall availability, because I mean you went 9 innings with Severino. You only used one reliever for Manaea the following day before, so the selection was weird. Let's just say that. I think it was a little weird, but I think there's a little bit more trustworthy than a lot of people do have in some of these guys, but there's a little bit more around them that I think is more of a factor. But what do you think about like this ideal of the bullpen, just like filling this thing in the margins, because it's weird?
I don't trust anybody. I don't trust a single reliever in this bullpen. I trust Diaz more than everyone else, which is kind of not a good thing considering, Diaz has been pretty good like since like the fake IL stint, but besides that, like Nunez is the best reliever on this team as of now, and we need him back. And look, I was actually one of the guys who I actually wasn't that high on our trade deadline, to be honest. And I think the reason is, yes, I understand that there was like a lot, like the prices were really high. And, we didn't give up a lot to get better, but like the ways we got better, I felt were so marginal. And like, I don't think like Ryan Stanek, he's done. He can't pitch. Like, I don't know what to say. The dude, he throws meatballs. He can't throw strikes. And when he does those strikes, he throws meatballs. Like he gets just destroyed out there. Like I don't know what else to say. He's an ERA in the 5s. I understand the stuff is great. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but like I just don't think Stanek has it anymore. I mean, he couldn't pitch well in the Coors Field of pitchers, which is Seattle. So it's like I don't know. Like Stanek, I unfortunately don't trust. I think he's talented. Brazabon, he's 35 years old. And you know, he's talented, but he's been blowing some big games for us against offenses he has no business blowing these games too. Who else has sucked lately? Reed Garrett, like bro, like he can't throw a strike. He can't throw a strike. Yeah. He throws a ball every time. Every pitch is a ball. Like it is actually so frustrating to watch. And you know, I think Reed Garrett is actually quite good, but it's just like he is losing his command. Like the things Reed Garrett's been doing this year, like in terms of like his whiff rate's literally 99th percentile. I don't think that really comes out of a fluke, especially in 45 innings. I think maybe the Mets just completely overworked him. Maybe that's showing its effects.
It's possible, very possible.
I think Reed Garrett's a stay in the bullpen, but like he's been absolutely horrendous lately. There's no sugarcoating it. Why wasn't Diaz in that inning? Or like. Even like when Maton came in, I was a little surprised when Maton stayed out for the 9th because like he had trouble getting out of that inning. Like he was getting the deep counts, he gave up the hit. You know, some other things from this series, like obviously, you know, the starting pitching was amazing. We'll talk about Severino later, but like I've kind of stopped letting this team get me mad when they lose because the reality is the Mets are mid. They're a mid team, and if they make the playoffs, it'll be great. It'll be very good for this kind of not kind of rebuilding season to have some exciting baseball, which I guess we are. And you know the Marlins have always given us trouble, but the problem is we just you can't lose games like these, and the Mets flaws are easily exposed. And like some more notes about like this series, like it's been a while since I've been on like. JD Martinez is old. He's old, and it's really showing. His power's gone. He's been a productive bat, but preseason. If you told me Mark Vientos is better than JD Martinez, like way outperforming him, I'm shocked. Yeah. You can go back in the streams. I felt so bad for Vientos. I'm like, why don't we just trade him? But on the real talk though, like since like. I've been on here. Like Mark Vientos is that guy. I've never been more wrong about a player than I have been Mark Vientos. I think he is. I think Mark Vientos is unbelievable. And JD Martinez, you know, I think he's brought a lot of wisdom to the team. I think, you know, as a hitting coach, I love having him back, but I have absolutely no interest in him being the DH next year. Just me personally. Maybe he has another huge. Maybe something's with the back still. Maybe he has another huge. Like Dodgers year, like he had last year, next year, because he'll definitely find a job. But you know, with the way Pete's playing, you know, he has been heating up lately. He did hit the ball well, and that's something the Mets did do today. They did get unlucky. They got pretty damn unlucky. So it's this. I guess for that reason, the loss doesn't piss me off as much. Like Lindor had 2 barrels, and the Mets had like so many barrels today. I don't know the exact number, but they had like one of their barrels. We all know why they
didn't leave. But let's be real, you know.
I mean, dude, one of their barrels landed for a hit. They had 5, I believe. I'm calculating. Yep. And the Marlins had none. So, look, there's not much you can do when that happens. But this pen was just blowing this whole game. Some more about the series. I like Harrison Bader. When Harrison Bader is off, he is the biggest NPC I've ever seen. You know he's not doing anything. When he's in a slump, it's like if Pete's in a slump, if Lindor's in a slump, if other guys are in a slump, there's a chance they could get a hold of one. You know what I'm talking about? Because Harrison Bader, I love Harrison Bader. There's no shot he's doing anything when he's not hot at the plate. And you know, I love Harrison Bader.
He's always been one. He's always been a
so
hitter.
many guys in this line were streaky.
Oh yeah.
Like another guy like Nimmo, when Nimmo's hot, you kind of know he's not doing anything. Like ever since I'm happy about the player Nimmo's come into, and you know it was nice to see him wake up, and then you know not great to see him get hurt right when he's getting hot again. Hopefully the MRI is tomorrow. But since Nimmo became a power hitter, like he's been unbelievably streaky. Have you guys noticed that, or is that just me?
Yeah.
And I'll take that. I think power is really important in today's game, but that's what also impresses me about a guy like Mark Vientos. Every time Mark Vientos has started to slow down, every time his slump has been at max 5-6 games, and he's been back hitting.
Yeah.
I understand, Mark Vientos technically is overperforming a little bit if you look at xWOBA. Regardless, if Mark Vientos has still been incredible, even by, expected WOBA and stuff, Mark Vientos is a special bat. It sure looks like he is. He is adjusting at every level. He's waited for this moment. From no one believed. David Stearns didn't believe in him. The Mets didn't. No one in the Mets believed in him. I mean, I'm sure there's guys who liked him. If I could give myself any credit, I did kind of like him more than Beatty. I did. If it were up to me,
I've always liked his bat more than Beatty. I always
absolutely.
have. Yeah.
See, entering the season, I kind of was more in favor of a third base competition because I just had no faith in Beatty's bat. He's playing great in AAA. I hope he's figured something out. It's unlikely.
Yeah.
But Mark Vientos was doubted at every possible moment. He was doubted. He has not been given a chance. Last year, he was awful last year. And there's context behind that because he didn't get to play every day. It felt like down the stretch in the second half, he really started to come into his own, and from JD's signing, he's outperformed JD Martinez at a huge level. He's outperformed anyone's expectations. He's outperformed his
Probably
projections.
Been the best hitter on the team.
Mark Vientos has absolutely been the best hitter on the New York Mets this year.
Yeah.
And I know he struck out to end the game, but I was at the first 2 games in person, and it was just the at bats he takes. He's just so confident up there. I truly believe Mark Vientos thinks he's going to do something every time he comes up to the plate. I couldn't say that with Beatty.
We all feel that way, too. I mean, we all do.
He's
really produced. I mean, I got to see him hit, 2 home runs against Oakland. And you know how, I'm always I love the pull the ball types of guys. But this guy's just, he is just ridiculously strong. I mean, I mean, when this guy makes contact with the ball, it's something else. Because, we all know that if he does make contact, he's going to do damage. But the problem is that we just didn't know how much contact he was going to make. And now, I mean, now it's a lot different.
Not a lot of contact he's making necessarily.
Yeah.
He's making when Mark Vientos is swinging and missing, it's not for the reason I thought it would be. When you see quadruple A type players, they just can't hit a big league breaking ball. Mark Vientos can. He's hitting all types of pitches. He has incredible his swing decisions, his pitch selection. He's been able to hit a big league fastball. He's been able to hit a big league slider, and that is the biggest thing. So when he's whiffing, it's sacrificing contact for power. It's not Joe Adell. I can't hit this pitch, and I might run into one. I know I've been going on this tangent, but Mark Vientos, if it's at third base, which I'm not sure it still is. At worst, he can fill in there during injury because this defense has been better than I thought it would be. -4 OAA at third, it's not great. But with a guy like Ronnie Mauricio, who I hope is here next year, if Ronnie Mauricio hits, because I don't know, I always stick in Mauricio to my discussions, but seeing Mark Vientos hit, and with a lot of the tendencies Mauricio has as a bat too, in great contact. He's got the torn ACL. That's huge, and he's not going to come back this year. But great contact rates, 100th percentile raw power. He hit at AAA. He's got speed. I think his glove is way better than people give it credit for. I think Mauricio and Vientos could be two. If Mauricio we know Vientos is here, but seeing Vientos work out and seeing some of the tendencies that Mauricio has, I'm getting cautiously optimistic about some of the young players, and I think this Mets lineup could be a power juggernaut pretty soon, and we'll see what happens with Pete. I personally think he's probably going to stay on a short-term deal, but there was things to like about the series, and the biggest thing to like, I guess we'll get into next, but we should have won Game 3. We got unlucky, but also unacceptable performances from the bullpen.
Yeah. And listen, I think that Mark Vientos, it always seems like he's always got a big hand in like everything. And that's the thing. Series by series, we've talked about it. His name has come up, you know, way more than we've ever talked about Beatty positively, or talked about some of the main guys that are supposed to be doing things positively. Guys like, you know, Alonso, or guys like Nimmo at certain points. Even JD Martinez, who's cooled off recently. You know, the overall impact that Vientos has just had with this team. I mean, Frank, do you agree that maybe this makes you feel a little bit more comfortable going forward in the youth of this team? Somebody like Mark Vientos?
Yeah, because of the point Rowe made as far as like he doesn't have cold stretches for a long time and being able to make adjustments, which I find so fascinating considering that he has the least amount of major league plate appearances of anybody on the whole lineup. So the guy with the least experience is the best at making the adjustments. Meanwhile, the veterans who continue to struggle, like JD Martinez, who keeps hitting into double plays, and the Mets are one of the highest in hitting into double plays, that stands out a lot. Like, that's really alarming when you're seeing stuff like that happen, and you're seeing so many other veteran players like Nimmo, like Bader, being in extended slumps. Meanwhile, Vientos, he just does what he needs to do to keep his OPS at around 900. And with the sample size he has, that's the highest on the team. Iglesias would be right there with him. Terens would be there with him if they had more plate appearances. But I like the idea of moving him to second, because if he is your best hitter, he should bat second. So I kind of like this. Let's see him at the top of the order, more pressure. And I feel like it's going to pay off. He still does chase at sliders on the outside corner like the rest of the right-handed hitters on this lineup do. So I can't really hold that against him when the entire team, the veterans, are doing it as well. So I just like that he doesn't stay cold for a long time. And he just does what he needs to do to heat back up. And like we said, just always hitting the ball hard. I mean, even if he's not hitting a home run, even if it's a single, a lot of times it's over 100 miles an hour. They said he's what, 99th percentile in barrel percentage or something like that. Like when Vientos hits it, most of the time he's hitting it really, really hard. And like you said about the opposite field stuff, since he hits the ball so hard, he can hit it to wherever field he wants because that ball is probably going to travel. So when you have that kind of power, you can get away with it. And he just has that right now. And from the third base position is not all that common. So he hasn't been fantastic, but he's not a total liability to where he kills you and is like changing games because of how bad he is defensively at third. Ideally,
he's making pretty much every play he needs to make.
He makes all
like,
routine
the
plays.
easy
Exactly.
plays, he's making them. He's making all the throws to first, right on the money.
He has a very strong arm, so I mean that definitely helps him out, especially at
That's
third.
probably
so,
the reason why it's keeping him at third base. And
exactly. So ideally, he's a first baseman or DH, but if you have really good players in both those spots, he can be your third baseman. And then you want sub Iglesias late for other no defensive guy late for third, you can. So I like what I've seen, but to the point about Harrison Bader, I was just looking at it. He hit 2 home runs against the Colorado Rockies on July 12th, has not hit a home run since. So we talked about that with Nimmo last episode. As soon as I said that, he hit 2 home runs immediately. So I'm hoping the same could happen for Bader because, even before that, he had a home run in back-to-back games against the Yankees. Then he didn't hit one for a while until he hit the 2 against Colorado and now didn't do it for a while. So that is like the definition of streaky. Like when you hit it, you hit them together and then just we don't see you for a while.
That used to be Jeff McNeil, like when he would hit for power.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk about McNeil later, but
yeah, I actually do want to get right to McNeil because we're still talking about hitting. I let this thing marinate for a little bit because I didn't want to just jump on some kind of gun. You know, has a good 2 weeks or whatever. Because we've been fooled by this before with a lot of guys in this lineup, especially when we talk about overall consistency. You know, guys like Pete Alonso who come to mind. And, you know, I think, you know, when you talk about like guys like Lindor and other guys in this lineup, there is one guy named Jeff McNeil who has most likely he has been the best hitter on this team since the All-Star break. And I think that when we look at it from another angle as to where before the All-Star break, Jeff McNeil was in competition as one of the worst players in all of baseball in 2024. And to see him just completely turn around like this, and even though there's still some frustrating points with him, let's just say. He still has been a very productive hitter in this lineup. And we can all say that this has just been the rise of Happy Jeff. All right. This is killing me, guys. Okay, so of course, when you see from comparison the second half and the first half, it has been an absolute revelation. Pretty much double everything in every single category. Striking out a little bit more, but this is less plate appearances, so it's kind of just skewered a little bit. Literally, I would say the same amount of extra base hits in this little span as compared to just the first half in general. And, just overall production has been great. He's driven in 16 runs as well. This whole power surge, of course, 7 home runs, 174 OPS plus, a 183 weighted runs created plus. I mean, just incredible. But the main thing that I want to talk about is how he's been able to do that. And the full-on misconstrued claim with Jeff McNeil is that he just puts bat to ball. He makes contact, he bloops things in the air, and he makes hits, and he batting averages the ball. No. The main thing that makes Jeff McNeil very good is his ability to pull line drives, hit line drives, just in general, whether you're talking about using the field, but overall his pull side is the most important. The highest pull rate of his career was the year he won the batting title. We've also seen him make a little bit less zone contact, which could be a little bit of concerning to you, but it's good for Jeff McNeil for him to sacrifice a little bit of that contact for line drives, for a little bit of exit velocity as well. We've talked about Jeff McNeil tons of times, just basically making too much contact for his own good. And right now, we have kind of seen him even this out a little bit, and he's hitting line drives, like we've said. He's pulling line drives. Pretty much every single one of his hits since the All-Star breaks have been a pulled line drive, a pull fly ball. You've seen line drives up the middle. We're seeing him even walk a little bit more, be a little bit more patient, and we're just seeing Happy Jeff. Frank, you are a huge Jeff McNeil fan. I don't know why, but
I know why,
what have
because
you
he's on a steal of a contract, right, Cars? That we fleeced him. That's one of the best contracts in baseball. We told you. All
right, listen. We have to understand. You have to understand this here, okay? I'm going to put a wrench into this before I go to Frank. Here's my problem with this, because I always have to shit on something. This is not okay for my ego. I'm just saying. Him playing well, it's not good for my ego. It just isn't, all right? And we have to understand, this is important, okay? It's not okay for my ego, because we all know that I only like narratives, and I don't want this team to win whatsoever.
I could tell because you lied about his max exit velo on the thing. I was at the game.
I probably had a typo.
He hit that homer 108. That is the hardest fly ball or line drive he has hit in his career. Literally,
Those
it's
stats are
by
before
far.
he hit that.
Great.
Those stats
That's
are
good.
before he hit that.
But this is actually so significant. He hit the hardest by far baseball in the air that he's ever hit. Jeff is back. I've seen enough. He's the batting champ. He's Happy Jeff. I'm here. I was a hater, but then he became good, and now I like him. So
he's doing what I've always preached. So am I wrong? No. But
you're wrong.
Jeff
You said he had the
McNeil.
worst contract in baseball, and that we shouldn't have given it to him.
When did I say he had the worst contract in baseball? Did I say?
You might.
Maybe I probably said he has the worst contract of a guy named Jeff. Frank, what do you think? What have you liked from Jeff?
Yeah, I just like that he changed the approach. He was trying to aim everything and do little bloops and opposite field and dips and dunks, but he just said, you know what? Let me swing hard, hit the ball hard, see what happens. And what happened is the ball went over the fence quite a few times, a lot more than they were before, and just more hits are falling, because if you're trying to get a hit it over the stands, no fielder will catch it. How many times in the first half do we see Jeff McNeil try to hit a little bloop or try to do something, and some player made a diving catch, and he's throwing the helmet down, he's going crazy, oh, I'm so unlucky, oh, poor me. But if you hit the ball over the fence, they can't make a diving catch. They can't make a great play. So seeing that change in his approach fly balls up. And really, the big thing is like that slugging percentage. When you talk about going from 314 in the first half to 656, like that is just absolutely crazy. He went from being, like you said, one of the worst hitters in baseball to now, right now in the second half, he's been elite. So that definitely is big. The fact that the ball is still going over the wall for him, it wasn't just like, oh, he had a great series against the Yankees and then he didn't do it anymore because he was in Yankee Stadium. Like, no, this has been sticking and he's still been doing it. So just keep it going. I mean, we just kind of see that with McNeil. Like, a lot of the times it just feels like he's been in identity crisis mode where he's not really sure what he's doing or what he wants to do. But hitting the ball hard, lifting it, that's always a good idea. So keep doing that. And I feel like a concern that we had is, with him wearing the big thing on his elbow, with his age, how much does he really have left in the tank? Like, is there really anything left in there? And for him to then hit the hardest hit ball of his career, line drive, whatever, that's encouraging. That shows you that while he's not going to be a batting champion again, he's not all the way done and just has nothing left. So I think that was encouraging because it was getting so bad that we were concerned, like, is this guy just going to be a bench player and you have to start Jose Iglesias every day? Because that's how bad it had gotten. But he's shown a lot of improvement, so I give him credit for that.
Yeah, I'm impressed in the way that he's kind of just flipped every single thing around, because the main thing that has always been really tough for me with Jeff McNeil is how stubborn of a hitter he continues to be. Or he continued to be for a long time. And when you see a lot of things that are just not going right, and I also would say, like, the full-on adjustments that he was trying to make, they had a stretch where they're saying, well, he's hitting the ball in the air a little too much. They're trying to have him hit a little bit more line drives. They're trying to have him get a little bit more on top of things. And they kind of eased him back into it. And we still just were not seeing any line drives for, like, that stretch in, was it July or something? Like, he didn't hit a single line drive. And then over the All-Star break, something clicked and he was able to find that swing again. And the one thing that the only thing I'm really cautious about is with Jeff McNeil, and I talk about this all the time, there's sometimes where the Mets try to, like, ride this hot hand thing and they move guys up in the lineup. Please don't do that with Jeff McNeil. Like, we know what he's capable of. I understand that he's been hitting well recently, but just leave it at the capacity that we know he's able to do. If you want to bat him sixth, go ahead, bat him sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. I don't need him batting fifth. That's where, like, the more catalyst offense pieces go. The same goes for when they did that with Jose Iglesias. Let's never forget when he batted, like, second or something. He got really hot. He was one of the hottest hitters in the lineup. But then they, like, bring him up to the top of the lineup, and you're like, okay, this isn't a catalyst piece to the offense. Jeff is a marginal bat. No matter how much power he's gonna provide, he's not a main catalyst. He's not a Nimmo. He's not an Alonso. He's not Lindor. I mean, do you believe that this is a 30 home run bat that you're putting in Jeff McNeil?
McNeil is an MVP caliber hitter. He's proving it in the second half. He is a batting champion. In 2019, Jeff McNeil was a power hitting boom. That's what he was. And now he's back to that. So McNeil is here. And if I may give my 2 cents about just Jeff McNeil in general, I was a big McNeil hater. He was my favorite player. Prior to 2022, and I had my narratives. I was like, Jeff is going to bounce back. And then he did bounce back, and I was happy, and he won the batting title. And they started to suck again, and then I was in my pull the ball mode, and I was like, fuck Jeff. And then, this year, I realized that I have I have a soft spot for Jeff. I always had that soft spot for Jeff, so I was always rooting for him. But now that he's back, I mean, look, he's pulling fly balls. He is doing a lot of shit that you like to see. He's, like, been a 180 bat in the second half or something, yeah. WRC plus wise. And, he's actually getting his stats right around to where I expected them to be. Like, I thought he'd be, like, pretty much a league average bat, maybe tiny bit above average. Like, he has more homers than he's had since 2019 already. I didn't expect that. I think, if I'm being a bit more objective here, I think Jeff McNeil clearly can pull the ball and hit line drives. I mean, he's done it so many times. He's getting a bit older, but what he's doing right now is just incredible. But one thing that confuses me, why can't he be the slap hitter anymore? Like, I understand it's not that sustainable in terms of the results, but he just couldn't do it at all. Like, he had what, 3 or 4 seasons hitting 300, way above 300, and I understand you can argue luck is part of it. I think he just probably just declined
shift.
too.
It's probably the shift, right?
I don't think it's the
I would
shift. He had an
think so.
easy ability to just hit it past the shift or behind the shift. Even when they would do it, it was nothing.
A lot of his opposite field hitting, and this is a majority, a lot of it would be on the ground, and a lot of it, it's not particularly line drives. A lot of it would be pop-ups. A lot of it would be more aimed down. And he was kind of just be able to get that through the shift, and then people just stop, players just stopped shifting on him. Fielders stopped shifting on him. And then he was able to kind of get that little power stroke in there. So one thing I will say is Jeff McNeil has been doing since the All-Star break. He's been doing what won him a batting title. And I think a lot of people are a little bit are kind of curious as to he wasn't hitting for power like this. Pulling line drives, getting on top of, just not getting on the top, swinging through the baseball, not getting under the baseball. Just the full-on level swing, just showing that bat control that we know that he was capable of years ago or at one point. So the fact that we have gotten that as a contributor, it just, again, it makes the lineup deeper. It just makes the lineup deeper. And it doesn't have to do much. I'm not saying that when Marte comes back, he's got to start hitting home runs. He's got to be a 20 home run bat that he was back in Pittsburgh or whatever. No. When you get something, whether it's one base outcomes, whether you get stolen bases, whether guys using their legs or whatever, from the bottom half of the lineup, it gives you more opportunities for the top half of the lineup, which, to be honest, I mean, the bottom half of the lineup seems to be better situationally as compared to the top of the lineup most of the time. So I think that it just makes the lineup deeper. And when you have somebody like Jose Iglesias, who has played so well since getting called up here, which nobody expected was going to happen. I mean, I think we had discussions about possibly platooning him with a Jose Iglesias or maybe a Mike Brossow at one point. Nobody expected Iglesias to be this amazing. I mean, we've seen him put up the 300 status with other teams, but who knew if that was going to sustain? Then we saw him working with Driveline, all that type of stuff. And when you've come to a point where in this second half, I always thought that I would originally, I don't know, a month ago, I probably thought it would be a death sentence to have McNeil and Iglesias in the same lineup. Now you're okay, well, we can put this guy at third. We can put this guy at second. Both of them have been contributing in the second half. And even though it's not good for my ego, again, like I said, and it's really bad, and I cry myself to sleep every time that Jeff McNeil does something well, it makes this team a lot deeper. It makes them a bigger of a threat. And, I hope that we start to get that from Marte as well, for him anchoring the bottom of the lineup well. I mean, we have seen a very deep team offensively, and even though we still have had the runners in scoring position struggles since this stuff has happened, we know that at any point you could strike with this team, even though some can do it in bigger margins than others. So anything else we can add on Jeff McNeil? Because I think, I really am. I'm really my ego is shot. I really am. I'm really upset.
I mean, I think it lengthens the lineup. If Jeff McNeil is hitting half of what he has in the second half, he's just as productive as he used to be. And I don't necessarily think he is gonna be over a full 650 plate appearances would be what he used to be, but I think it's probably fair to say Jeff is I think he's a solid player. I think it's probably fair to say that at this point he's still like his defense. The quality of his defense might not be as sharp, but like he's still perfectly placeable.
He definitely has.
He's perfectly playable, and he will get the job done at many positions. And if he's gonna hit for some power, if he can give you 15 plus homers and like if hover around like a league average bat, which is what he's done. I can't believe that's what he's done after how bad he's been. Like, give him a fresh start. Who knows what he could be? We'd have to see how he adjust in a full season. But Jeff McNeil's a solid player. He was a solid player last year too. He was a 2.5 win player. He wasn't what we expected, but at the end of the day, he did actually overperform. His AAV per Fangraphs for the contract he has. So Jeff McNeil, if he can be, Jeff McNeil's a solid player, and I think he has confidence now, and hopefully that sustains through the end of the year, at worst, maybe in the off season, if the Mets really want to give Jet Williams a window, they want to give Mauricio a window at second, or what it be, he might have some more trade value now. So I think
he's in the position
great.
now. Jeff's in a position now where he doesn't need to be a catalyst for this offense. He doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
He can just be doing what he does. It's not like 2019 where probably at one point he was like our third best hitter, right? Like second best hitter. Like Conforto had his streaks in 2019, in and out. Alonso was obviously like one of those main catalyst guys, of course, in 2019. Like a lot of the weight is taken off of McNeil, and hopefully, he takes that into
as
account.
Well. Like we had so many good bats.
Same goes with 2022.
30 bats, something like that. Look, Jeff McNeil, he's solid. He has been solid in the past. I think he's found something. How good he is, we'd have to see through a full season to me. But if Jeff McNeil is continues to play well, I'm fine with him starting at second base to begin the year next year. It depends, because at the end of the day, like Mauricio or an ACL, I maybe start him in AAA, to be honest.
We'll see how
Jet
he looks
Williams.
in spring. To be
it was
honest.
a lost season for true, but it was a lost season for Jet Williams. He is coming back, which is great, but he's not coming up this year. He's not going to start next year. Luis Angel Acuna. I mean, as time goes on, the guy just. It was nice to get some Scherzer money eaten, but I think we missed an opportunity to get some more value by trading him. And Luis Angel Acuna, maybe he turns into a solid utility guy, but he's not a guy whatsoever slotting in the second base. Jeff McNeil could be the starting second baseman next year, and I'm sure he would have a better start than he did this year.
I'm just glad that they've been willing to make those adjustments in the lineup as to where. Sometimes he's batting 8th, sometimes he's batting 9th. Like the majority of the time, they're switching him between 6 and 9, which is great. Like I'm glad that they're doing that because it all depends on how heavy the lineup is. Because I'm not the biggest. We all know how I'm not the biggest fan of Jeff McNeil, but with common sense, it's not like you want Ben Gamel batting above him or, somebody like Luis Torrens constantly, even though he's had a few hot stretches. Now, M-Easy coming in saying that McNeil did struggle to turn a routine double play the other night. Exactly. See? Fuck Jeff McNeil. I told you. See, I'm just grasping for straws now. I mean, I'm really down in the dumps, guys. It's really tough on me. Let's just say that. But speaking of tough and toughness and powering through, let's talk about Luis Severino, who had quite the performance yesterday. If you're listening on audio, it happened 2 days ago against the Marlins. Luis Severino was, incredible. He just mowed down hitters, and he gave us a complete game shutout. Something we have not seen since Jacob deGrom did it in 2021, and we just don't see in baseball every single day. Guys do barely even get through 5 innings these days, so there was a little bit, I'm not saying controversy, but a little bit of a debate as to the decision to keep Severino to go. And let's just say Severino, he was sharp as he's ever was yesterday, and the fact that they let him go, it was weird considering we had a little bit of a different conversation like 2 episodes ago about Severino and like the wheels falling off or something like that. But when you look at Severino where he was at his best yesterday, I mean, just a complete masterclass from Luis Severino, and going all 9 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, 16 swings and misses, and they let him go to 113 pitches. Now, when I talked about it the last time, the last 2 starts before this start with Severino, there was a little bit of concern with overall pitch shape, and we all know how much I like the pitch shape and how much I like to emphasize that. Just the overall command of his stuff as well. We had his induced vertical break on his fastball about 12.2 inches as compared to this performance, which was 15.9 inches as well. And you also had a vertical approach angle, which we have talked about before, which basically make or breaks careers pretty much to avoid the barrel of the bat. And having a vertical approach angle on his fastball of negative 4.3 degrees, just, I mean, that's unworldly. And then, of course, a little bit less of the breaking pitch as well, which is kind of weird because that seemed to be his bread and butter. But he was really getting a lot of arm side movement with that as well. You can see his sweeper over 14 inches of horizontal break. I mean, everything was going right for Luis Severino, and it did throughout all 113 pitches. And, I mean, this was a peak performance by him, and I did ask everybody in the chat, the decision to keep him going, it looks like, and I don't know if this is just more based on the results from some of you guys, but some of the guys in the chat, 82% do agree with Carlos Mendoza letting Severino finish that 9th inning. 9% of you guys do not agree with it, and 9% of you guys are indifferent. It could go either other way. I think it was a little bit weird considering how we saw the Mets kind of being a little bit cautious with his innings. Of course, we know the workload of Luis Severino, but I mean, it worked out. It was a risk, I will say that, but interesting decision by Mendoza. Let's just say that. I mean, Rode, do you want to add anything what you saw from
if
Severino?
I may, like, I kind of feel like Sevy, like, there was that one start against the Twins where his velo was down, but my thing, like, I was at the game. My friend and I, we snuck down to the dugout seats, so we got a close-up look. We saw Mendoza walking out. We're like, "Don't do it!" Everyone was like, "No!" Yeah. Everyone was like cheering his name. It was like really loud. I don't think the broadcast quite captured how loud the chants were, and Mendoza's done a great job. There's been, you can nitpick his decisions, but Severino. I think Severino actually, in a way, is pitching in a way that might be more sustainable for the future in the second half, even with like some of the results that have been totally shit. Like he's figured. I think his sequencing has been a lot more optimal to get strikeouts and like playing to his strengths. Like I think he's throwing his sweeper a lot more, which is going to help him in the long run. And also about the workload thing, like Severino's healthy, and another thing, he has no mileage on his arm. Like it really reminds me of Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler, when he really, around 2018-19, that's when he really got his career back on track. But like for years, he had thrown no innings, and Severino is kind of in that same situation. He has not thrown he's missed seasons. He's missed more than half of seasons, and very often in the last couple of years, he hasn't pitched this much in 6 years. So he doesn't have much mileage on his arm, and so I think in that sense, like we saw a guy like Zach Wheeler who's been able to just go blow past 200 innings in a couple of the past years, despite the injury history. I think it's a lot more, obviously it's good to be cautious, but I think Luis Severino is in a position where I would be totally comfortable giving him a 3-year extension because, one, I think there's another level for him to reach This high 3 ERA, I think he can get it. I think I could see him being a much better pitcher than that, because I think his arsenal, he's learning more about the new version of himself, and some of the new pitches he has. And I think he's electric, and I think he's going to have a lot more innings in that arm than we realize, considering his age and the amount of workload he's had. And I think Severino's here to stay, and I really hope he does stay. And watching that start in person was one of the best, in-person sports moments I can remember in recent memory. It like the whole stadium was behind him. We were all like looking towards the bullpen screen. Oh, Diaz is warming up. Oh, we think it's done. Then he walks out. I can only imagine what it was like in that dreadful game in the World Series where a certain guy whose nickname was a superhero was rolled out for the 9th inning.
Yeah.
Now, that didn't quite work out. But it's like moments like these, it's a feel for the game. I think Mendoza had that. I think everyone in the stadium wanted to keep going. And against, it was against the Marlins. It's important to acknowledge that. Like, a lot of these, also like Paul Blackburn, like all of his good starts have been against very weak offenses. I think but that doesn't mean, I think Sevy actually has had quite a good process in place in the last couple starts. And, some of the homers he gave, like the one he gave it to Jake Cave in Coors, I was like, what? How did that leave? I think Sevy's in a good process, and I think he's going to pitch better down the line. And I'm confident in giving him an extension, and I really hope to see him back here next year because I don't think he'd be that expensive. Like, if the Mets can get Manaea and Sevy back, respectively, on 3-year, $45 million deals, $30 million to 2 productive starting pitchers per year, that's 2 of your 5-6 guys. I would absolutely be down to doing that, and especially, I think the Corbin Burns to Mets smoke is pretty real. Like, I kind of expect that to happen at this point. So it's like, if we're going to blow away a bunch of money at one starting pitcher, if I can have $30 million to 2 other good starters, I think that's a steal. And I really like Sevy. He's having a very solid year. Big bounce back year. He's had great moments, and I expect him to do it in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I still have some concerns going forward with him. It doesn't really have anything to do with just the workload in general. It's just the full-on consistency, because so far in these last, I don't know, month or two, I'm just kind of seeing like a different Severino. I'm not saying like a severe Severino, a severe like Tyler McGill, where he's like a different pitcher every single time. But I'm talking about like where, the usage of his pitches, I think that like with his breaking stuff and with his sweeper, which has been a really good weapon for him, not to mention the ground balls that he's been able to get and put guys away a lot better than he was doing with the Yankees, because he just seemed like someone who was only good for 5 or 6 innings with his injury history. He's definitely a lot different of a pitcher now. The only problem that I have with him is just the full. I don't know if it's maybe just like a postseason thing or something. Just the full on burnout of his arm, I feel like, is something that they do need to watch. And I do understand like the whole thing with not Seaver. Why did I say Seaver? Where did that come from? Wheeler. The whole thing with Wheeler, of course, where he didn't have much mileage there. I get that, and not to mention he does. They do have like similar, they do have like similar approaches as to where, it's not really like strikeout heavy. It's more of just stuff that can help you get volume, and that is something that I think that has really been something that has really helped Severino this year. And I think it was a great performance that he had here. I'm slowing the brakes a little bit on the future where that kind of lies, but I think that with how they approach this one, it was odd to me, because it seemed like at the trajectory they were going, but for some reason, it was definitely a risk to let him go those 9 innings, I think, but the risk worked out, and I think that there's a little bit more, and I'll move this to you, Frank, more of the kind of the player-manager relationship as to where Severino and Mendoza have known each other for a while, for when they were with the Yankees, and the fact that in the dugout Mendoza said that he was taking him out, and then Severino basically convinced him to stay in, and they said, "Are you good to go?" And he said, "Okay, I trust you. Here's the ball." And that is very risky to do, especially after the first pitch of the ninth inning, he hits a batter. Like that is some trust that a manager has in their player that you don't see very often. You usually see them cut the cord like that, especially with pitch count and everything like that. That was pretty interesting to see. Let's just say that. Frank, what do you think?
Yeah, so I got a few things. Number one, on the future of Severino and Manaea, I feel that both of them should and could be receiving qualifying offers. So that already is going to put them, I would say, they're worthy of contracts in the 20s. So I don't think 15 is going to happen for either one of them. So I think that's the first thing to kind of keep in mind when you're assessing the offseason, as far as like if you're going for Corbin Burns or somebody else, if you're keeping these guys, what it might cost. So that's the first thing. The next thing is that they kept saying on the broadcast the Mets want to limit his innings. That we've been hearing that constantly. And, he has had an injury history. So that's always a concern, is that like some guys are more prone to injuries than others. Unfortunately, we know our buddy Jacob deGrom just constantly gets hurt. Some guys are just injury prone. That's just how their bodies are. So there is some concern with Severino there. And the fact that, it was August 17th and you're already quite a bit above that innings threshold that he's worked lately. So you already have gone pretty deep into the season with him. For that to be the time to say, okay, you're going to go 9 innings, that's one thing. But also the fact that he went 113 pitches, which is 10 more than he's thrown at any point this season. Yeah. Now, I understand he told Mendoza, I'm good to go. I'm good. That's fine. I understand he felt some pressure from the fans and everything. Fine. But two things. The first thing is that with Kodai Senga down, with Christian Scott down, and with you wanting to avoid using Tylor McGill at all costs, I would think you try to protect all your starters and not risk any more injuries. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the Mets do not have any upcoming off days before Severino's next start. So he did 113 pitches. He's going on regular rest. He does not have an extra off day upcoming before his next start. So I feel like there were a few factors that just surprised me. And you know what? I hope it worked out. I mean, you were supposed to rest the bullpen, but then the bullpen still didn't pitch well and still feels like maybe guys got overworked. So the results didn't quite work for the next day, but you're hoping that maybe your arms are a little more rested for the Baltimore series and the San Diego series with no off days coming up. So I was surprised by the move. I'm glad it worked out. And the main thing is just that I hope Severino is able to stay healthy the rest of the season.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't get any noticeable... Like that's the one thing about,
and the velo was still there. Like he pitched like he was healthy. So I mean, there was no
looked
sign
like he was healthy. I mean,
we haven't seen anything health-wise related to Severino all season. Not a single peep, not a single rumor.
Same with
nothing
Manaea
has come out.
Same with Manaea.
Has Manaea been? Manaea, has he been injury prone in the past? I can't quite remember.
No, he's been pretty good. But
he hasn't, but there were concerns with him. That's the main reason why his market was so little, with him throwing as hard as he's become, like where he's not used to it. Mm-hmm. But
like with Severino, a lot of his injuries weren't really related to each other. Like, like
the guy was an operation table though for a while.
I guess so, but like so was Chris Sale. But a lot of Chris Sale's injuries got hit in the hand with a baseball. Fell off his bike. Yeah. How sustainable are those injuries? It's like Aaron Judge it's not like I get Tommy John. Everyone gets Tommy John. There was other stuff too, but I'm injuries probably aren't as predictive as we really think they are. Considering what we're seeing from Severino, what we're seeing from Chris Sale, especially with pitchers, like the fact that these guys are throwing, like Sale hit 99 yesterday. And Sevy at 99 yesterday, and the fact that they're pitching deep into these seasons, considering what's happening to these pitchers, like, I don't know. Obviously, it's an epidemic, but I really am more comfortable with Sevy going to the 100 pitchers than probably someone like who hasn't gotten a Tommy John, who's a young flamethrower, like a Hunter Green. Like, I mean, Hunter Green has been nails, but like, I'm not sure if he's gotten a Tommy John. He's very young. He did?
Yeah, he just got put
Yeah,
on.
he just went out there yesterday.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I was seeing him on Twitter, but I didn't know he actually got. Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, Sevy has done it for long. He's got hurt doing it, but you know he doesn't have much mileage on that arm, and I trust that he really did feel he was good enough to go out for the ninth. It was a moment that, at least being at the game, it was special. It was memorable. I'll always remember, you know, Luis Severino throwing a complete game shutout, and Mendoza coming out to the mound, and like, you know, you need to be a player. You got to look like, in a way, like you got to give your players the moment sometimes.
Yeah,
And that was a moment
absolutely.
Severino had to have, and just when he got that third strike, that just roar of emotion, that is something he absolutely needed. And you know, it didn't seem he threw 99 in the last batter or two. Like, he was not slowing down. That was his inning. He was there. He was committed, and he was pitching healthy. It seemed to look like.
Yeah.
And I've said it a million times, but I really am convinced that, you know, I'm not sure his risk of injury is much higher than the average pitchers at this point in his career.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's just like a combination of workload, a combination of consistency, because we have seen very bad from Severino too. Like, he's had his blow-ups as well. Like,
especially
I'd say
recently. It was,
you know,
like,
as for him
stats
compared to
after
Benaya,
this
oh
one.
yeah, recently he's had some of the blow-ups where
He's been very
had some-
unlucky, though. That's kind of been my
lot
point.
lot
Like,
a lot
bad
of luck,
defense,
but
Coors Field, and then there's that
a
one
lot of
against
luck,
Minnesota,
but volatile location. Let's just say that there was a lot of there has been a few pitches where he is left over the plate and a little bit of shit. Like I've said, like that 12 induced vertical break on his fastball, especially from the like when he had that. I don't know if it was in Coors, but he also had it in a start before that. I mean, that stuff was going to go right into the barrel, but luckily it was, you know, Colorado. That's not a great offense, and you know, and you know, they're some of the best hitters from Minnesota. But even though he did get shelled in that outing, but you know, it all really has to do with, you know, how he goes start by start, and we'll see how he does react, because he's not going to get any rest, like Frank said. He does not have any rest days, and also he's going to be going up against an Arizona team that is red hot. Is red hot, and they got some really good left-handed bats as well. If I do say it myself, like
They'll face San Diego, right? Isn't it San Diego?
oh no, San Diego,
I think it's San Diego first.
Arizona, San Diego. Oh, did I say? Okay, San Diego. Never mind. San Diego.
That's a better.
Who also
pitcher's
have
part. I mean,
a bunch
they're
of good
both
bats.
pitchers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they got a
they
bunch
also
of
have
good
a bunch of
bats,
good bats. Never mind.
But
yeah.
you know, hopefully Sevy can turn this into a role where he can
Yeah.
end the season on a really strong note, and I would love to see him back in a Mets uniform next year.
Definitely
You know,
a surprise.
I've said my
Let's
piece.
just say that.
I've said my piece.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprise. Let me just say that, because, I mean, I could ask anyone, and I mean anyone, and I'll ask Frank just straight up. Going into this year, did you see Severino going 140 innings?
No, definitely not.
Absolutely not. Exactly. Absolutely not. And the fact that we are coming into this season where it's constantly become like an epidemic of pitchers just constantly getting hurt. I mean, we had, what is it, the elbow fatigue or arm fatigue from the beginning of the season? Like, pitchers were dropping like that. The fact that the most injured pitcher of the last like 4 years, minus like Jacob deGrom probably, in Luis Severino is still standing. Again, you can knock on wood if you're superstitious, but the fact that he has not had any injury concerns, it's something to be said. It is something to be said, and I am hoping that he does change my mind and bring me into that point where I'm like, okay, maybe we do keep this guy for 3 years or 2 years. Like, one thing that I would say that I need to see from Severino is I'd like to see like a good postseason run from him. You know, to kind of lock that down, but that's also some extra innings on his arm, so that might bend into the concern as well. But, you know, like Rhodes said as well, I mean, he does not have that mileage, so there is a strong possibility he can keep that consistency going. I just think we just need to see what the product is at the end of the year, because, you know, before this complete game, we were talking about an entire different topic regarding him of, can he keep this up? Can he be a top part of this rotation with Senga and Scott out? So I'm letting it marinate. Let's just say that. But an amazing performance. He was on it through all 9 innings, locating well. And again, he had a lot of gas in the tank. Let's just say that. And sometimes you do need to know the player. Like if you're a guy who's on fire, who he wants the ball, you give him the ball. And that's the main reason why I would always, and that's why the main reason why I would always talk about, with the Matt Harvey situation, when we talked about that in Game 5 of the World Series, where he went out to the 9th inning. It's more of like the manager knowing the player or whatever, or what do you want to talk about it from, letting him go or whatever. I still do support that decision of letting him go to the 9th inning, because again, he probably wouldn't have pitched for the rest of the season after that, because it's Game 5 of the World Series. So, it's do or die there. Something like that with Matt Harvey. I mean, if your ace says they want the ball, you give him the ball. And even though this is a regular season game, different circumstance, of course, this is not the World Series. I wish we were in the World Series right now. But I mean, it's the Mets are really playing like their playoff hopes, where they rely on it, because they do. I mean, they got to win, and they got to win every single game possible. So, if your pitcher's on a roll, maybe 5 extra pitches doesn't hurt him. But again, we'll see how he reacts to it, because 5 days rest. We're on a 5-man rotation, but we'll see what happens with Luis Severino, and we'll see what happens with the Mets going into this next series.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that with the 5-man rotation, is that it's something that we talked about for a while, that we thought if they were healthy, they would have done a 6-man rotation to have Senga be a little more similar to his workload in Japan, to prevent injuries for Luis Severino with the injury history, keep Christian Scott healthy. So we talked about, hopefully with signing Severino, all these guys, that the Mets were going to do a 6-man rotation. And because of the way the season has gone, they've not been able to do that at all. So Severino's been able to get this inning total so far while in a 5-man rotation the entire time. So I think that definitely is pretty impressive.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I hope, and this might be something, I don't know if this is correct, but Armand coming in saying that it's just announced that the Mets will play the Mariners for the Little League Classic game next year. So that's pretty cool. Maybe they'll hit a little bit better.
Oh, yay. The Mariners on Sunday Night Baseball against, we could talk more about Cal Riley. Oh, great. Just what I wanted.
No.
We could talk about Cal Raleigh, and then Victor Robles could scream into the mic and destroy everyone's eardrums.
Yes.
Yay!
And they gave him and Seattle gave Robles a contract extension too. So
yeah, they did.
Can't wait.
Exactly. So
it'll be great.
There you go. Hopefully they can hit a little bit better when it's because we all know
this game is 0-0 in the Little League ballpark, so I don't know.
Jesus Christ, man! What are the dimensions for that stadium?
Wait, how deep are the fences at that stadium?
Yeah, I want to know.
It didn't look big on TV, but it's throwing these guys off. I mean, listen, Tarek Skubal is pitching on one side, then you have Stroman on the other,
yeah.
So Skubal affects that, but still.
Did you hear the song Stroman released earlier in the year? He released the song.
Boy.
It flopped. It was no oh my god.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't Jose Iglesias.
No, oh my god. Can we real talk? That song's genuinely catchy. Like if it weren't
it's good.
If it weren't part of the Fugazi Mets, I would think it's a catchy
Yeah.
Hey, if you know the translation too, it actually is a good song. There's a lot of good positive messages, good meaning. So I could see why the players actually
isn't it really throw everything bad away, grant me health and prosperity, or something like that.
Yep.
Nice. I mean, listen, I think we've always had these fads go on with the Mets. Where there's these little trends go in and out, and then they latch on to something else.
And all that.
Yeah, exactly. The rally pimp stuff.
The fakest thing I've ever
Tommy
seen.
Stevenson,
Stop. No. No, see, I was hoping the Syracuse Orange throughout the first pitch Friday, and then we won the first 2 games of the series. I'm like, yo, why is no one talking about the Syracuse Orange? And then we lost. And so that means no Fugazi.
Finished.
We have to win at least 6 games in a row for it to be.
Yeah, exactly. The whole grimace stuff and all these fads and everything. But when we talked about this whole oh my god thing, usually like these things they come as like some folk hero thing, but Jose Iglesias has been one of the like main contributors of this team turning it around, which is like so rare when you think about it because
He's
I mean,
running out ground balls.
let's
and
not
beating-
forget like that
single
little
save was
run
awesome.
of let's not forget that little run of Patrick Mazeika with the fielder's choices.
Mhm.
He was never a good player and it all
Yeah.
died out quick, you know?
Yep.
But like somebody like Jose Iglesias, even though, he's been in the league for a while and, he was out of the league. I mean, it's
Former
quite a
All-Star.
story. It really is. And a former All-Star too, beat up James McCann. I mean, this guy
No, but look,
is
you see
my
around
guy.
the league, you see like types of moments that really strike up a team, like players who make a difference, like James
Yeah.
McCann in Baltimore. He got hit in the face and the nose, and now the Orioles are gathering behind him and playing much better. So you need those James McCann type players to really like make a difference in the season.
Would you give those James McCann type players $40 million though, Rode?
Look, I mean, oh my
Well,
God.
they're not the ones giving it to him. The Mets are.
Look. Yeah.
We're paying the Orioles so they can have an incredible Fugazi player in James McCann. We should have never let him go. Considering the way Alvarez is playing, we need McCann back. James McCann, baby.
Listen, I really, and especially with Parada struggling too. All right,
Dude, Kevin Parada, I forgot he existed. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
Respect
Yeah,
to him.
problem.
He's
That's a
he's
problem for
he-
first round pick.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a new
elite.
international scouts. I think now. That won't matter for the draft. But
All right, so let's get into the injury report of who is healthy and who is not. Kodai Senga, we got some news on him. Mets are hopeful he can begin upright throwing. I don't know if he was like throwing while he was like standing on his head or something before now, but he can begin upright throwing in about 7 to 10 days, which is pretty encouraging, but there is a likelihood of an October return, but it's still unknown. And of course, we know he's on the 15-day IL after that horrific calf strain that he had and sustained after 5 innings into his return. Danel Nunez threw 20 pitches to live hitters on Friday afternoon, and he will begin a rehab assignment on Tuesday night for AAA Syracuse, where he has about a 15 to 20 pitch limit. Big part to the Mets bullpen this year. Hopefully we can get him back soon. And then Christian Scott is expected to start throwing from 120 feet. He has yet to start throwing breaking balls. As we all know, that's kind of just the process of ramping up from injury for pitchers. And we all know his deal with the UCL sprain in his right elbow. Still don't know any timetable for him. But overall, the pitching, let's just say it's getting healthier. Sean Reed-Foley, another guy we can give a little bit of an update on. It seems like they're kind of slowing it down with him
Well, I
after
have a
ending his
question.
rehab assignment. Yeah, go ahead.
what does upright throwing mean? I have absolutely no clue.
Again,
what that
I
means.
think he was throwing while on in a handstand,
Okay. Okay.
since he got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
Maybe he was sitting because it was a calf injury, but I don't know.
But like upright,
Maybe.
like my chest is up, my posture is upright, like, and I'm
Yeah.
throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Could it be like any
That's
like
upright.
like
So was he
using his
laying
legs to
down and like
throw,
just pushing the ball up or
Maybe.
something?
Yeah, I mean, like, is he stepping and throw? Because again, it's his calf, so it's a lower body
Yeah.
thing. So I
Also, I'm seeing
I
some
think-
Christian Scott haters in this comment section. I think we should
Yeah, fuck you
discuss
guys.
that a little bit. Hey, look, he's a rookie. He's a rookie. He's got incredible talent. He's got great command. Actually, he's got great
horrible
control,
coach.
I should say. The command, he's giving up too many homers, but he's throwing too many sweepers to the lefties. That's what he seemed to be doing. You know, it's a brand new pitch. The command's not
he
going to be
might
great.
need a cutter. He might.
Yeah, I think he could use
Christian
something
Scott-
new against lefties. He could use a new
Christian
pitch.
Scott is going to be absolutely fine. I really do believe that. I think he's really got like frontline potential. I mean, he is a rookie. I mean, it's really nothing at this point. And he had some good starts. He had some flashes. So
Yeah, Emmy's
we don't
coming in
know
saying,
about
what about
Nimmo.
Nimmo's
Yeah.
injury concerns? Yeah, he did leave Sunday's game with a right shoulder discomfort. I do have it along the bottom there, but we have not
Wait.
gotten a single update from that yet.
But this could open the door.
MRI is clean. Yeah.
this could open the door for Eddie Rosario to go on his October run for the Mets. I'm telling you, it is going to happen. If Nimmo hits the IL, Eddie Rosario is coming up. He's going to be the Fugazi October World Series MVP. And he's
If he
no,
couldn't
then
do it for the Braves, I don't think
he
he could do it.
he did it for the Braves already. But that
Yeah,
chapter,
but years
see,
ago.
No,
yeah.
I'm talking about this
Frank,
year.
every person
Like-
has a book, and every book has chapters. He's past that chapter for the Braves. So when he has us, when he wins the World Series
Dude's
and
talking in
has a few
scripture
run,
now.
he's gonna have to choose: am I a Brave or am I a Met? Like which is my team? What's my home? Am I a Brave?
Am I a
lifetime?
Muppet or a man? Is that
Exactly. That's what he's gonna have to do.
okay.
He's gonna have to choose one fan base. And, like, do I love the Mets
Maybe we
fans
should
or the
go
Braves fans more?
Duck legend Jackie Bradley instead.
So like, if Nimmo does hit the IL, it's okay. We have Eddie Rosario coming up, and it'll be okay.
It just stinks to see Nimmo go down like that after finally like breaking out this series. Like it really.
I was afraid it
he
was
was
a
hitting the ball really
Conforto
well.
injury. I was really afraid because it reminded me way
Oh, the
too much.
Conforto.
Remember when his shoulder went
Oh,
out
man.
September when he had a big year?
Don't even get me started.
I know. I was just glad it wasn't that because when I saw that, I was like, oh my god. I'm just glad.
Wait, what are you talking about?
We'll see.
Wait, what year was that?
I
Conforto
think-
was
was
that
that
2017?
I think it was
Yeah.
2017.
The big year, the All-Star year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in September, he had a swing and just like totally messed up his shoulder, and he was.
And then
done.
he was good the next year, but not nearly as good. I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just say I'm not going to go deep into this, but Daniel, let me just say, listen, let's just say it was an aura competition, all right, from the start. Let's just say that, all right. Yeah, we're screwed on that end. But anyways, let's get into everybody's favorite segment, studs and duds. One player that played well in this series that we want to give some flowers to. There were some great performances, as we said. And one guy that needed to step it up did not. And even though there wasn't that much bad, we can still do the nitpicking and just, be annoying. Frank, I'll go to you for your stud of this series. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'll give us a guy we just talked about, Brandon Nimmo. Finally seeing that power. We saw in the last episode, Nimmo, where's the power? Where'd it go? He hits 2 home runs and a triple. So I think that definitely is a good sign. Hopefully he is healthy and his shoulder is okay. But it was nice to see that power finally come back because it had been a while since we've seen it.
Yeah, good to see him back. Hopefully he's
And he made some
healthy
nice plays
again.
in the field too. Some nice diving catches in both games in left field. So definitely made a big impact.
Yeah. Road, you got a stud for this series?
Look, I'm not gonna pick the guy. I'm gonna make Carson pick this guy. So I'm gonna go with the obvious Luis Severino.
Okay.
Because we all know why he did it, but I hope Carson picks the right player next. Another stud of this series who hit a very deep home run, hardest of his career. I hope you choose wisely.
All right. Well, I think here I'm going to go into the AAA roster, and I'm going to talk about Eddie Rosario, who hit his first home run RBI triple today for Syracuse. That was pretty good. You really going to make me do this? All right. Jeff McNeil, welcome to the stud party. I listen, we're natural enemies, and listen, like I've said, my ego, it's not doing well right now. I really am hurt that Jeff McNeil is doing good, and we all know that how much I like to root against my own players, because I'm just that kind of fan, I'm that type of piece of shit. But let's get into duds. There's a few you can point out here. Most of it came from today. Road, I'll go right back to you. Dud.
Okay, this might be weird. He had a couple hits. Jesse Winker. Okay, let me tell you something. I'm sure Jesse Winker is a great guy. Okay, he's fun. He loves the Mets fans. I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this. Like, oh my God, Jesse Winker, he's Darren Ruff. He is Darren Ruff. Like, I'm sorry, I just have this overwhelming sensation that Jesse Winker is not going to hit a home run for the Mets. And like he's only hit singles. He strikes out looking a lot, and I think he's a fun guy.
Yeah.
I really respect Jesse Winker. He's done a fair amount of trolling for the Mets fans.
Yeah.
But like, I'm about to send out the most flaming hot take in the history of this podcast, and this is gonna get memed. It's gonna get whatever screenshotted or whatever the translation of video form would be. But DJ Stewart playing every day, playing at the same volume as Jesse Winker, is going to be more productive. And if I must explain myself, Jesse Winker has mid power. He has great discipline. So does Stewart. But, like, it's just the vibes. Something about the vibes. Like, DJ Stewart was raking when he was playing every day, and now Winker's playing a lot. And look, DJ Stewart's better defensively than Winker, which is somehow a truth. DJ Stewart has more raw power than Jesse Winker. Jesse Winker's batted ball data is just mid. His exit velocities are mid. Like, he's just, I don't know. Like, and he was so horrific for 2 years in a row, and his, like, I'm just not too high on Jesse Winker, and you know I really do prefer Starling Marte over him playing, even with the defense. It's just I like
Winker's
Jesse
not
Winker.
great defensively either. So.
He's just as bad, and I really feel like I feel that Jesse Winker is, no respect to him. I don't think he's really gonna be of any significance to this lineup down the road. I would have been more.
Yeah, I mean, I said it on Twitter. I said I don't know about him in the top of the lineup, but I think that compared to some of the left-handed bats we've put in here, it's at least like a little bit more of a breath of fresh air compared to somebody who they were comparing him in with, like Tyler Naquin or, you know, Daniel Vogelbach, who just didn't even do anything. Why did he even bring a bat at that point?
Jesse Winker
as compared
hasn't hit
to
a home run yet, though. Like he's
yeah,
hit
he
like
hasn't.
2 extra base
No, he
hits.
hasn't. He has one
had-
double, right? He has one double.
He had like
I think.
a great first half against righties, but like last year he was probably the worst hitter in the game. His expected stats are really mid. Like, I don't know. Like,
I get it.
I just
Conforto
don't-
was the better pick, right, Rode? Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
obviously. Well, like obviously. Like, not even a troll. I would totally take Conforto over him. But, you know, I hope he proves me wrong. He probably will prove me wrong. He'll probably go on a hot stretch, which I hope he does. But Jesse Winker, I just get Darren Ruff vibes, and I have this whole time he's been on the team, and I think it kind of relays to my,
I don't think he's
my
great, but I think
dissatisfaction.
they just-
I think Stearns should have been a little more willing to give up some prospects, because there's guys who I don't see part of the future. I think to get better, you have to give up somebody. Like, could we really not give up Luis Angel Acuna for anybody? Like, considering the market, like, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't have value, but like,
you have to understand something here, Rode. What's Luis Angel, his last name?
Acuna.
He's related to Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ronald Acuna Jr. won an MVP one time, so that just means by blood, he's got to stay here. You know,
well, maybe he will be good. Who knows? Like, he's still
We'll
young,
see, yeah.
but I don't think. I wish Stearns were a little more aggressive at the deadline, because I don't think we got too much better. And
I just
we didn't
don't
give up.
think there really was many like options available for the right price.
I
Like,
would have totally given up prospects for Blake Snell, though. I was a.
I didn't
I mean,
see
I'm
many
not on
available.
Twitter.
The Giants want to move
That's
him.
the thing.
Well,
you know?
look, I'm not on Twitter or anything, so y'all don't really know like my thoughts and everything. But I was heavily advocating for like Blake Snell with like people I know, because he was already
Yeah, I
having
get
an
it.
incredible
Yeah.
second half.
Yeah.
It seemed like they wanted to unload his contract. I don't know what types of prospects they're asking for. And if they're asking for Brandon Sproat, of course, it's a nothing. They're asking for any of those guys. But, Paul Blackburn, like Jesse Winker, like Brazabon, like they're solid. They're okay.
They wanted depth. Like that was
They
what
did
they
want that,
wanted.
but
Yeah.
we're in a playoff race, and we didn't make any margin. Like any, I don't know. I feel like we could have done more.
To what we're talking about with the deadline in terms of the lineup, I think what they want is the top of the lineup to contribute like the top of the lineup should. I think that's what they were kind of banking on. But you're still seeing a little bit of the struggles with runners in scoring position from Pete. Sometimes JD Martinez. Nimmo had that slump there. Lindor has been really good. But they need some of these guys to contribute a little bit better than they have, and hopefully that pans out. But
Yeah. It
Yeah,
is
the
important to
problem is that-
acknowledge the sellers market. Sorry, Frank, but like it was a huge sellers market, and it's going to be that every year with the expanded playoffs,
Yeah.
which is going to make it really complicated. But it feels that when Jesse Winker comes to the plate, he's not going to come through, and there's nothing based off of vibe. You know, I know there's positive upside to him, but it just feels weird.
Just
to me.
I kind of get it. Just the fact that he's been so good with runners in scoring position, so good in high leverage, like with Washington, that it only makes sense that like he would just die off like that. That's more of the narrative of this guy comes here and he's terrible. But I think again, like you said, it's a marginal move. I'm fine with it. Again, I think that it makes the outfield deep enough, especially with the concern of Starling Marte's health as well. It's fine. It's a guy who could play, who could start. I don't know about him batting third or fourth, but if he's there batting seventh, batting sixth, I'm not going after it. But if you're expecting him to be, picking up the slack of Alonso that has been this year with runners in scoring position, or JD Martinez who's cooled off recently, then you've got a problem. Let's just say that. But luckily we have a lineup that's deep enough in where they didn't need to get like this big showstopper bat, like a Cespedes type move from 2015, and hopefully the offense just finds a little bit more of the consistency, because we saw it in June. We saw it a little bit in July as well, but August, it's been up and down. Let's just say that. It's been back and forth. So hopefully they can get back into that, but it's going to get tough going forward. And speaking of going forward, I just want to go into previewing the next series, which will be against Baltimore. They are coming to town. Baltimore, we all know, is a young and upcoming team. Here's your pitching matchups. Game 1, you've got David Peterson, 7 o'clock Eastern time, going up against Trevor Rogers, who was somebody the Mets were involved in at the trade deadline. They did not pull the trigger from the Marlins, and he ended up going to Baltimore. So Peterson versus Rogers in Game 1. That's at 7:10 on the 19th, which is tomorrow. Game 2, Jose Quintana at 7 o'clock against Dean Kramer. Young arm. And again, the Mets will not be facing the Orioles' best arms. You will not be seeing Corbin Burns in this series. You'll be avoiding him. So I guess that's a little bit of an advantage, but there is some really good pitching on this Baltimore side. Let's just say it's a really good team. Sean Manaea gets the finale, which will be at 1 o'clock on the 21st. Up against Zach Eflin, another piece that was acquired at the trade deadline from Tampa to Baltimore. So a little bit more of a, we're taking a look at the deadline acquisition part of the rotation for Baltimore. And again, it's not going to get any easier, because after that, you've got San Diego, you got an off day, and then you have Arizona. So this is going to be a tough stretch here. Again, you're gonna come to this point where you're like, maybe we should have won this game. We should have won this game. No going back now. So this is gonna be a tough competition. Is it possible that if you do get swept in any of these series, that you get completely knocked out of the playoff picture? It could happen. It could. Luckily, the Braves have been playing just as mediocre as us in this recent stretch, which has kept us in this race. But you have San Diego and Arizona coming up, who you are behind. These are teams you have to beat to get into this playoff race. Keys going into this series, Frank, I'll go to you. Mets versus Orioles.
Wait, Frank, did you have your dud yet?
I did. I was just gonna say Brazaban just for blowing the game. 3 hits, wild pitch, just unacceptable performance. They really wanted more out of him.
And just like a ridiculous tangent? Did we just? We just went on a ridiculous tangent after that. That's tough. All right, whatever.
Sorry about that,
but
Frank.
yeah, for the For the Orioles series, I think really the couple of keys. Number one, going up against Trevor Rogers, the Mets have had some success against him in the past, so I think just trying to replicate that is really important. Eflin has been very productive for Baltimore, working deep into games for them, and just overall, even though Baltimore hasn't played as well as they did earlier in the year, there still just is a lot of talent in there offensively. Obviously, Elijah Rushman, Gunnar Henderson, our buddy Anthony Santander, like they just have a ton of talent. So for our pitching, they just got to keep us in the game. You know, they can't have one of these blow ups where they're giving up the 6 runs or more, because with how inconsistent the offense has been, I don't think they'll be able to bail them out. If this was that June offense when anything is possible, maybe, but I just think that right now with the inconsistencies we've seen, they just can't afford any blow ups. And for Peterson, like, don't try not walk the ballpark. You can kind of say that for the entire team, but especially with him, like, they really need him to try to give him some length in that first game, because, like you said, that next series against San Diego is so big, and you don't have any off days in between. Even though you're traveling from New York to California, still no off day. So they really could use some length as well.
Yeah. One thing I do want to add here from this series, there is something that if it does happen, we're going to open a segment about it. And I think I'm just saying, I'm not saying anything crazy, but there's going to be some fire. Let me just say, if something does happen to some individual pitcher, we're going to talk about it, because this has been something that has been a topic of, I don't know, trend with this guy. That's all I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to go anywhere deeper into that. But going into this series, Road, what do you think?
I mean, well, let's not sugarcoat it really, because David Peterson, who you're talking about.
I'm not talking about anyone. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm not pointing at anyone.
David Peterson it's really tough, because respectfully, he has been unbelievably lucky this year, and it is pretty astonishing how his ERA is a low 3. And I think Senga going down, like, I don't know. I don't trust him when he goes out there. I trust him more than Tyler McGill, but he seems to he's a 7K minus BB, which I saw on the chart. I didn't realize it was that low, which is going to be unbelievably difficult to find success with. He's not a guy who's going to be on the postseason roster if we make it. So in that sense, we know what David Peterson is. The discourse around David Peterson, I don't think anyone's calling him an ace. If they are, I think they're a bit misled. But he is what he is. He'll give you a good start. Probably most of the time he'll give you, at least keep you in the game. Not very efficiently, not with much volume. But besides him, Quintana, he's getting slapped around lately. Who I actually thought he was starting to get together. But, Quintana had a lot of... His command was what kept him good. It feels like his command is fiddling away. And Manai, he's been great lately. He had that start with them against Seattle, which was really bad, but he had a nice bounce back start the other day. So, Gunnar Henderson's very hot right now. I wonder how we're going to pitch to him. Have to win the series. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but, we've seen them sweep the Padres, who they're going to play soon. We've seen them take on good teams. We've seen them sweep the Yankees twice. We've seen them take games from Atlanta. We've seen them take games from, even the Phillies. They might not have won, but, the Mets can kick it. The Mets can kick it, and we just got to hope that they get hot. Because there were some good signs with the bat. I think there's a bit of unluckiness today. So let's hope that it really comes together. Trevor Rogers, he's hittable. So let's get to work here, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that, Ken coming in saying Peterson with low ERA, let's worry about him giving up 6 runs. I think he's ERA'd the ball well. I think he has. Good for him. I'm just leaving it out there. Just saying. One thing I would say about these 3 pitchers we're going up against, they all seem to be a little bit home run prone. So Let's just say that, if they get something in your wheelhouse, let's not slap it around. Let's use the power. I don't think you can outslug this Orioles team, but we'll see what happens. Frank, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, and with Peterson, he's gotten way more run support than anybody else in this rotation by far. So I feel like the fact that he still walks as many batters as he does, even with a big lead, is concerning. So I just wonder how his results would be if he was in situations where the games were closer. Because you just look at his starts and the amount of runs that the Mets have scored each time, like he's pitching just in situations that these other guys don't really get to. So, and just with the, like you've said before, Carson, a lot of his like really good starts have been against very bad teams. So I just feel like with that many walks, it's just tough. Like it's always like you're one swing away, you're one play away from like it just absolutely falling apart. For example, Quintana against Oakland, like how many times did he get out of the bases loaded jam before then it totally had the grand slam?
Oh, I don't recall that start at all.
But he could have given up so much more, So I just feel like a lot of times they've just been able to escape a lot of the traffic that they put on the bases.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, sometimes matchups are favorable and you expect something from them, and some guys get on a roll. So maybe is it possible David Peterson just gets on a complete roll and locates fairly well? Maybe. But there is definitely some concern here going into a series against Baltimore that even though they've kind of cooled down a little bit and they're not as, they've shown a little bit of weakness, and they're battling with the Yankees right now for their positioning in the AL East. Let's just say, I mean, this is a good team. So, whether we have the home field advantage or not didn't seem to bother the A's. I'm just saying is that, there are some holes in some of this pitching for the Orioles. Again, we're not facing Corbin Burns, even though the Mets have done well against Corbin Burns. We'll see what happens. Let's just say that. I am also really, really hoping to see, such as the home run proneness. Let's just say I'm really hoping to see Alonso get into it and have a really good catalyst series. I'm hoping to see that. Hopefully, Nimmo is good. Lindor going into this series. What is it? 12-game hitting streak, 13-game hitting streak, something like that.
12-game hitting streak, 17 on base streak, I think.
Wow. I thought he sucks. What the hell happened? But hopefully, we need to see the top of the lineup contribute. I mean, this is pretty much everything. Hopefully, we get JD Martinez going, something like that. And we'll see what happens with the matchups, and hopefully, guys just stay hot. Hopefully, we can see Starling Marte contribute to the lineup. And, I think that the offense is going to be the main key here because you are facing, again, some of the worst guys, some of the bottom three of this rotation. There we go. That's the better way to say that. Okay. Parting words. I guess we'll get into that. We'll close it out here. Rode, I'll go to you. Anything else that you want to put out there? Any random thoughts?
So, guys, I'm going to be honest. I don't know when I'll next be here. I feel like to keep it transparent, I think it's clear by the fact that, I don't have an @, I don't have a Twitter. I feel like if I were really, I personally don't feel like I am committed enough to be, an active member here. But, every time I come here, I have a lot of fun discussing with you guys, and I definitely will be back. But, I really enjoy the comments, lots of love down there, and I love talking with you guys, and I will be back in the future. I'm just not sure when. There's a lot of stuff going on. Got school stuff, everything's getting back, but I really enjoy doing this. And let's hope the Mets really get on a roll here. And I'll kick it to Frank or Cars or whoever's next.
Yeah, good to have you back, Rode. Really fun to have you back. I know a lot of people in the comments have missed you as well. Maybe it's just because they're just sick of us and they just want a new voice in here. But who knows? Frank, I'll go to you.
Yeah, just stop walking the ballpark, please. Just everybody, please just stop. I can't take it. It's too stressful every inning. Just so many guys struggling. Like I can't take it. Someone just throw a strike, please. And it's tough against Baltimore. Like that's the other thing too. Is that you want to walk Gunnar Henderson in a certain situation or walk Ali Rushmore Santander in certain situations. Fine, I get that. But like we've seen against these other teams like the Marlins and Oakland, where it's like a bunch of bad hitters and you're just walking everybody, you can't do that. So I just be smart with what you're doing. Stop being just ridiculous.
Yeah, of course. Let's just say there's still things that need to be cleaned up, and they need to be cleaned up fast against some of these contending teams that they're going to be facing for the next 9 games, 10 games. I'm not sure if it's like a 4-game set against Arizona, but this is a tough part of the schedule. And again, they've put themselves in a position where, maybe, I don't know, 2 out of 3 is needed for most of these. And this stretch, if they're below 500 in this stretch, they're probably going to dig themselves into a hole that we do not want to see going into September baseball. So we'll see what happens, and just, brace for impact. But all I can say is, from the comments section, Ken coming in saying, apologies for not expressing my opinion. Thanks for your understanding. Listen, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, okay? If you want to call me a dumbass, you can go ahead and do that. I've been called way worse. You can go after me. Some of the stuff we say on here can be reactionary, and then we look like idiots the next time. But we're all watching it with everybody else. We're all here through 162 games, hopefully plus after that. And, it's been quite a ride. Let's just say a roller coaster of emotions in 2024. A cold start, hot end to the first month, then they go cold, then they go hot, then they go cold, half hot, hot, cold. I mean, it's just been quite a roller coaster all year, and we're still here. We're still surviving it, barely. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, listening. For those of you who popped in for the entire stream, for those of you who came in for a little bit, for those of you who commented down below, we appreciate your comments, all of your questions, all your likes, all of your everything of what you guys have given the support to the show. So thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already to the Mets Weekly channel. For those of you who are watching on Twitter, make sure to head over to our YouTube channel. It's the best way to chat with us, because usually some of the comments don't come in as well, so keep that in mind. And, of course, we record these every Sunday and Thursday regularly, depending on how these series line up. The audio drops on 9 a.m. the following day. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on TikTok and on X. Follow everybody individually. Rode, thank you for joining us. Good to have you. Always a pleasure. And, yeah, let's go Mets, everyone. We'll see you guys next time.